So I put out a very long, rambling tribute to Val Kilmer. I'll do more. So these are tributes and homages to Val that have come out recently. I am going to table certain controversies because some of these figures have their own scandals and dilemmas, and I will note them, but the concentration here is on what they're saying about Val. But I will do a more thorough breakdown. I will have to get into one aspect because I do cover cults, so I can't really ignore this aspect that Val was a very proud member of Christian Science, a very controversial branch of Christianity that has very radical, unorthodox views about God, the Trinity, and Jesus. But we will get to that in the final sections. So, Josh Brolin, most recently the actor who was in Dune Part 1 and 2, said, "See you, pal. I'm going to miss you. You were smart, challenging, brave, uber creator, firecracker. There's not a lot left of those. I hope to see you up there in the heavens when I eventually get there. Until then, amazing memories, lovely thoughts." Cher, yes, that Cher, the worldwide famous musician, they dated briefly in the 1980s. Valis, we'll miss you. You were funny, crazy, pain in the ass, great friend, kids, heart emoji, you, brilliant. As Mark Twain, brave here during your sickness. She's referring to a one man performance he did as Mark Twain. Mark Twain was his hero and a big inspiration, and Val fondly remembered just going through a lot of Twain stuff. Twain, by the way, did write about Christian Science too. Director Francis Ford Coppola wrote, Val Kilmer was the most talented actor when in his high school, and that talent only grew greater throughout his life. He was a wonderful person to work with and a joy to know. I will always remember him. And again, I can only note that Francis Ford Coppola has many, many disturbing controversies. I've covered a few of these. I will cover more. I think, however, some of the reputation and accusations regarding Megatropolis, sorry, I forgot however to say that name, his Polis movie, are not true. Some people have done really good work showing they're not true. But Francis Ford Coppola has done many questionable things in his life. We'll have to leave it there for now. The director, Michael Mann, who directed him in Heat, said, while working with Val on Heat, I always marveled at the range, the brilliant variability within the powerful current of Val's possessing and expressing character. After so many years of Val battling disease and maintaining his spirit, this is tremendously sad news. He was struggling with many issues with his throat. I believe he had several operations a decade ago, but he was still working through it. Again, Christian scientists don't avoid medical treatments in all cases, but they're very restrictive. So, presumably, because he still believed in it, somehow that cohered. But yes, he had many operations. He's just had a very weird, tragic, sad life. He lost his brother at the age of 15. So he's just had a lot of things going on with himself. Matthew Modine, who played famously Joker in Full Metal Jacket, Val was trying to go up for the same role apparently. He wrote, R.I.P. Val Kilmer. If it wasn't for our chance encounter at the source in 1985, I may never have been cast in Full Metal Jacket. Thanks, Val. That's not a good anecdote. Apparently, Val Kilmer was very angry with Modine, and the way he tells the story is they just met by accident, and Val was very confrontational. But yes, that inspired him to try to audition for Full Metal Jacket, and ultimately Kubrick chose him and not Val Kilmer. Director Ron Howard, who's done tons of films, Beautiful Mind and Solo recently, wrote, R.I.P. Val Kilmer. I was incredibly fortunate to collaborate with Val a number of times over the years as the offbeat swordsman Mad Mardigan. By the way, just one of my favorite roles too. In Willow, his stunning Jim Morrison in Oliver Stone's The Doors, and a chilling cameo in The Missing. I didn't know he did The Missing, by the way. I list these titles because even my own personal creative experiences reflect his awesome range as an actor. Check out his filmography, amazing. His art extended to his poetry, artwork, filmmaking, and simply the way he lived. Bon voyage, Val, and thank you. Yes, I should note that, although we'll probably be focusing on his acting career and this in other videos, Val did many things. He wrote poetry, he did paint as well. Apparently, his brother also did some painting, and he said he has his art that he put on his wall and was inspired by. So, this is an artist with a capital A in every respect. He also plays music, because I know he played music quite a few times in his films, so he's also a bit of a musician, but not, I guess, professional musician. So, he dabbled in many different forms of art, not just acting or filmmaking. He is also technically, I guess not say a director, but he has is a filmmaker because he was behind a recent kind of weird self memoir documentary on himself, Val. appropriately titled. I'm going to try to get to that. It's a very interesting film. Heard nothing but things about it, about his own journey as an artist. I also want to include some of the anonymous fans who also did some pretty powerful tributes. This broke my heart. I will never forget when you gifted me that Batman autographed painting you gave me back in 2017 when I was a student at Long Beach City College. Thank you, Mr. Kilmer. May you rest in peace with Jesus now. Again, he was a very strong adherent of Christian Science. Again, I'm not endorsing, I am just noting his affiliation. And this is his co star, Frank Whaley, who worked with him on The Doors. I've seen The Doors many times because I've researched Oliver Stone. I don't remember him. I'll try to look him up again. He said, working on that film was life altering for me as an actor. I will always be in his debt for his brilliant work in my film, Joe the King, in which he simply disappeared into the role of Bob Henry, a role I wrote based on my own father. His commitment to his craft was mystifying to behold. Val was truly gifted artist and a beautiful human being. Now, I consider myself an Oliver Stone expert, but I did not know this, and I've read so many books on Oliver, but apparently Jennifer Tilly was in The Doors, but her scenes were cut, which is tragically the fate of many actors, but we're not going to be able to delve into that. She says, they were running behind, so we were spilling out of the casting office, sitting on the porch, the lawn, and the driveway. All of a sudden, a 60s convertible came screeching up, blaring Doors music at top volume, and a guy jumped out and strode inside. He had wild hair, and he was barefoot, shirtless, and wearing nothing but a pair of tight leather pants. We all looked at each other like, who is this guy? We were more than a little shook by the queer audacity of his entrance. Well, of course, it was Val Kilmer, and from that minute on, nobody else stood a chance. R.I.P. King. And David Thewlis, who worked with him on The Island of Dr. Moreau, which I want to just forewarn people is one of the worst films you will ever see. It is a truly awful, stupid film on many levels, but a very weird, interesting film, which starred, yes, Val and David and Marlon Brando, well, playing Marlon Brando. And he wrote, I spent most bizarre 5 months of my entire life with Val Kilmer out in the Australian rainforest on the ill fated island of Dr. Moreau. It was so spectacularly bleak and awful, it was almost wonderful. Look it up sometime, as Val wrote in his final mail to me. Quote, what an incredible story we lived, you and I, one of the greatest. This is Val. Bittersweet to be back here in Australia and hear the heartbreaking news. He was one of the most extraordinary people I ever met. Proud to have called him a friend and co conspirator. Yes, you can safely say it was a very weird and frustrating experience. I've not read his entire memoir, but he does admit that it was a little frustrating because he felt they could have done something special, but it just didn't work. You can be a great artist, but you can only do so much. And I'll be honest and frank here that directors, if they don't like you, will edit you and cut you in a way that makes you look bad, because that is probably one of his very rare bad performances. And I don't think that's him. Just a very weird, awful professional experience. But still, it will go down in history books as one of those unique bad movies of all time. So I just want to do some final notes on his role in Christian Science. It is a very controversial cult. And interestingly enough, apparently sometimes God is gendered a woman. But I cannot be honest and not note from my own experience. I've never met any Christian scientists, but I've only heard really awful stories of them denying care when necessary. And again, although I do respect people's religion, it is very heartbreaking to hear these stories of people who just died because of their extreme adherence to Christian Science. Whether Val was that extremist, I don't know. I will just note, as a cult, it just seems to be as bad or deadly than Scientology and has many more adherents. It has at this point apparently nearly 500,000 followers. Again, no bad stories with Val, and he did have certain major surgeries, but I'm just noting the religion is very controversial. So a very interesting, mercurial, controversial figure, but by all accounts, wonderful man, difficult to work with sometimes, but always committed to his craft and an artist in every sense of the term. I'm sure more tributes will come, but these are very representative of who Val is. Just a very interesting, powerful, and will definitely leave you with an impression. So I would just say please seek out his work, and not just his film work. He is an artist in many ways. He was painting and doing poetry, so hopefully that will also get some attention. Thank you for listening.